Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini.
What are we talking about today, Doc?
We are talking about GLP-1.
Is that like code for some programming or what is that?
No, it's weighing the benefits and risks of the new drug. Heavy topic.
Well, we're going to spin it into a chiropractic perspective because there is one here. But before we do, I don't think there's anybody in America that doesn't know somebody who's on one of these weight loss injections, right?
My God. It's amazing when you think about the fact that this drug was developed for a different purpose. And then all of a sudden, the side effect of this drug became the reason why this drug is now out there in everybody's lives, one way or the other.
Yeah, it is nuts. Let's just go over the physiology real quick about it because it's interesting, right? So how do they work? And so you're really just hacking the physiology of your body here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing.
You're faking it out. You're giving artificially something the body produces naturally.
It's funny because when a lot of chiropractors started years ago, they started investing in opening these ideal protein weight loss clinics, which, battled metabolic syndrome. And, you were hacking your body in, I would say, a more natural way, not a completely natural way, because they were using, those
Stuff.
But these dieters were very successful. Certainly not as quickly as the GLP-1s are now, but they certainly were. But I have to say, if you're someone who is, overweight, battled this issue, or you just have a lot of vanity, it kind of is a magic drug in a sense.
For at least the weight loss aspect of it. Yeah. I mean, GLP, glucagon-like peptide. And it's something naturally produced in your stomach, and it tells the body to enhance insulin secretion. So basically, it's the way the body deals with all of a sudden this sugar being dumped into your system. So it's how the body responds to it. So by taking it artificially, you're creating this sense of fullness in a way that gives the person taking it this belief that they're not hungry anymore.
So, by stimulating the pancreas to release the insulin and then suppressing the glucagon, the side effects of this, or the intended effects of this, include reducing the appetite, the brain signal about being, full versus hungry.
Right.
And in America, I think, without even pulling out the research, I dare say we're probably one of the biggest consumers of sugar in the world. So it doesn't surprise me that, suppressing your hunger, but also releasing this insulin to deal with, the spikes in sugar, why it's so effective and popular in this country.
And why it was originally released as a control mechanism for diabetes type 2s. So Here we are with a drug that was intended for one thing and is now essentially being used for something else.
So the point here, when we're relating it back to chiropractic, is that now exists a new health history, component perhaps, and contraindications, or at least understanding and sort of sourcing out some of these side effects that occur.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You'll hear me say this over and over again. We have good news and bad news. Good news is we're not quacks anymore. And the bad news is we're not quacks anymore, which means we have to be responsible for evaluating whether or not chiropractic can be applied to the patient in a sense, and whether or not what the patient came in for can be improved by chiropractic treatment. And here we have now all these drugs that people come in with that they take on a daily basis, stuff we never even imagined being developed, let alone actually existing. And because of it, there's all these side effects that have complaints in a sense that are common reasons why someone might come into your office. Dizziness, headaches, low back pain, all these things which, we want to relate to our subluxation-based model, but yet may actually just be a byproduct of one of the many drugs that people take to, lose weight and get taller or become more handsome or pretty. Who knows what they're taking these things for, which all that we laugh, but it's true. There's drugs out there for all of that, right?
Wanted to make you taller, really?
I tried. It didn't work.
Sign me up.
But I mean, drugs were never part of, like we talked about this before. Drugs were never part of our world. We just had to take a notice of them, but to have them interact with why and what we do was much less than it is today with all these common drugs that are being taken by people every day for relatively benign reasons, meaning reasons that are not life-saving in an immediate way.
It's funny because there has to be somewhat of a balance here, because in most states, chiropractors really can't comment at all on prescriptions that someone's taking, right?
Yeah, definitely outside scope. It's not what we do, but yet they're coming in with drugs that give them symptoms that are common symptoms that we might treat. What do you do? All of a sudden you go, what drugs are you on? And they give you this list, and all of a sudden you're familiar with them, or at least familiar with the side effects of them. And you go, oh man, now what?
Right.
Is this a subluxation problem, or is this the fact that you're just taking that drug? They just commonly, what was it? They came out even a short time ago saying that the cortisone injections for, arthritic joints absolutely causes osteoporosis. It's not even an if anymore. So now someone comes in and they're getting regular shots for their arthritis, right? And all of a sudden you have to worry about something that directly affects what you do.
So speaking of directly affecting what you do, chiropractors, right? So someone in their patient history reveals that they're on a GLP-1. And so now you're looking at their subjectives and you're saying to yourself, well, is some of this a side effect or not? And are there any objective tests you can do, doc, to help source out the cause?
Well, that becomes our problem, right? Because now all of a sudden we're going, I won't say beyond scope, because certainly some states allow you to do more advanced investigative procedures, but it's something we have to consider. It's just not the simple come in, we do our thing, we determine the subluxations and nothing dramatic else is going on, and we can adjust you and we expect you to get better. Now all of a sudden we're falling into a medical model where it's a let's try it and see type of thing. Oh man, I mean that's just not where we were and what we do.
But you look at some of these possible side effects and how they might mimic the complaint that they're presenting at the chiropractor for, like low back pain, right? Or
right,
musculoskeletal pain, but the root cause could be something a little more serious.
Right. I mean, think about it. We're required to do a systems review. And in that systems review, there would be questions about, do you have diarrhea? Do you have constipation? Do you feel nauseous? Or do you have bloating or discomfort? Or, these are things that normally we might have related to certain dietary effects or outcomes. Now, these are things that are absolutely a possible problem with this one particular drug, not to mention all the many others. Vision problems. All of a sudden, you've got people having vision problems. Now you have to determine, well, what's going on with that? And it all emphasizes the need to almost have a working relationship with a patient's PCP in a much more dramatic way than it used to be.
It's funny because to me, the use of this drug has gone beyond the morbidly obese. Like my neighbor, the guy's in his 70s. He's, I'm going to say in air quotes, retired landscaper, because he still does a ton of landscaping for a few people, whatever. And he gained like 10 pounds over the winter. Big surprise, right? The guy's not moving and acting, but he's eating what he did in the summer, but he wasn't active. And he told me that his PCP offered him the shot.
Yeah, and there it is, right? I'm going to go back and say that a lot of our drug-related problems and addiction-related problems come back to somewhere along the line a gross irresponsibility by the medical profession. I know everybody might, boy, but think about
You get a
this.
lot of nodding heads too, though.
A lot of nodding heads. All of a sudden, you take this addictive painkiller and they only give you 3 pills. And then all of a sudden, the patient becomes addicted to it. We all have had family and friends and who have been affected by that. And then now we have this drug that they're giving out for 10 pounds instead of saying, hey, look, maybe you should diet and do a little exercise, watch what you eat and lifestyle changes, which would be what's supposed to be told to someone who's looking to lose 10, 20, 30 pounds.
I mean, I'm not going to trash GLP-1s completely because I saw in a clinical research article that came out like a week or so ago that it's actually showing it's improving people with like fatty liver disease. It's actually helping to reduce the fat around your organs. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits if you've been morbidly obese and you've been having, a tough time with that. But if it's strictly for vanity.
Well, see, and that's it. The word you keep using is obese. We're not talking about, having an issue.
Why is he looking straight at me when he says that word? How dare you?
I'm looking more lower, But what I'm saying is that there is a difference between the clinical condition of obesity as opposed to the person who is overweight. Overweight is a lifestyle problem. Obesity may be a metabolic issue. So let's concede that this drug could definitely help those people who are 100, 200 pounds overweight, who really do try and make an effort, and for whatever reasons metabolically, they can't get there from here. But we're not talking about them now. That's not what the problem with this drug is. The problem with this drug is people who just are overweight, who watch the damn TV commercials and go running to their MD and say, I need this drug. I want this drug. And the MD, instead of standing up and recognizing that there can only really be one doctor in the office, and it's not Dr. Google, that instead of saying no, they just don't even bother arguing. Sure, no problem, which creates problems down the road, right?
Wow.
Both physiologically and otherwise.
And realistically, that scenario exists, but also the other scenario is the doctor just offers it up anyway without even asking.
Right.
Right? With my neighbor.
Everybody wants to be loved.
But
even a primary care.
You look at that and say, okay, well, some of the side effects include, an issue with bone density, muscle tone, might impact your biomechanics, right? And then, so now you're the chiropractor and you're working with this person, and then you want to start like therapeutic exercise because let's face it, their lean muscle mass is being reduced drastically with this weight loss. It's not just fat coming out of them.
Yeah, it's not really a healthy weight loss.
No, I don't think it is. And then, of course, they can never come off it because, right, you can only metabolize calories with lean muscle mass, and when that's gone or reduced, right?
So they on any kind of aggressive exercise program and diet to support it, so that somewhere down the road in the land far, far away, you can get off the drug.
Right. But do they want to?
No.
I mean, you've seen it with celebrities probably the most because they're splashed out on social media and television more, but they start to look gaunt and they start to look anorexic almost.
1 foot in a grave. That's the way they look.
So then there's this whole body dysmorphia issue going on, this whole psychological overlay that could happen on top of it all, right? And then they're coming into your office to help solve all these problems.
Right. Now, well, and of course, side effects to most patients are something that someone else gets. I take this drug and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It makes me lose weight. But all these other symptoms are something else, and that's why I'm here. And again, it just circles back to that same old issue that you are now responsible for determining what the cause of those symptoms are and treat the cause. Well, don't I sound like BJ going back many years? Treat the cause of the disease, not the symptom. But here we are with patients coming in with symptoms that we now have to determine a cause that may not be subluxation based.
I want to turn to the other side effect that could have certainly influence in chiropractic as it trickles down is the cost.
Oh, don't they give this away for
Do you know that the average monthly cost of a GLP-1 is between $1,000 and $1,350 a month?
$1,000 and $1,500. Think about that when somebody walks into your office and doesn't want to pay $40 for an adjustment.
Yeah. Well, here it is. It's all about perceived value. The value of spending 2 car payments on this drug far outweighs the cost because, it's working quickly for its intended goal, which is, right, to increase your weight. But
and a lot of it's covered, right?
That's the funny part.
Yeah. Or was covered, is covered. Where are we with that question right now?
Let me lay a few facts on you. Okay?
Yeah.
So from Medicare, in 2018, the estimated cost of GLP-1 medication was $56.8 million. Fast forward only 4 years later, that $56.8 million turned into $5.7 billion.
Dollars, not pounds.
That's in 2022. That was 4 years. Now, projected 4 more years later, we're going to $102 billion.
For one drug.
Basically one drug, because it is marketed with, there's 5 different drugs out there, 4 of which are made by Novo Nordisk, a Dutch company. So they just brand it with, they have, the compound's a little bit different, but it all does the same thing.
All does the same thing. And we know that drug companies need the extra income because they're just starving right now.
I mean, they're raking it in. But here's what's happening. Because, and I'll give you, this isn't even a crazy example. This is a sad example. Here in Massachusetts, the state employer health insurance ran out of money. Literally saw a notice come in from the carrier saying that they've run out of funds and that they're going to suspend paying claims for 6 weeks until the fiscal cycle renews and the funds get replenished by the state.
So query me this, Paul.
Yeah.
Why did they run out of money?
Pretty much most of it was Ozempic or a related drug, a GLP-1. Most of it was that. And that you can see that from 2018 to projected to 2026, it went from $56.8 million to $102 billion. That's quite a raise.
So it literally broke the bank.
Right.
They lost so much money weight that they had to stop paying.
Yeah. So to close out that scenario, the state had to do an emergency funding to finance the claim processing till the new fiscal year. So now let's break down, when we talk about the cost, what's the real cost, right?
What happens to us now?
And that's just one employer-sponsored program. It's a big one. It's a state program. But that obviously is going to influence taxes because the taxpayers are paying for this employer-sponsored state health insurance. But what about the rest of the carriers? What about these employer-based coverages or Medicaid coverages, right? What's going on with those? Because they have all been, their bank's been broken too, to be honest. So they are now announcing coverage reductions. I've seen it with Blue Cross and the rest of them, that the medical necessity threshold, which to me, this is like actually a good thing. The medical, for the most part, the threshold for medical necessity has increased to where coverages will be much more limited, right? So I think it takes, to me, it helps filter out the vanity prescription.
And that's what happens. We know that most of the motivation in people are either vanity or vice. And that's why they're willing to pay up to $1,500 a month, because it's vanity. But going back to our business, our little Ma and Pa chief cook and bottle washer business, imagine all of a sudden if a good chunk of your income was related to one of these insurance carriers that now send you a letter saying, we're not going to be able to pay you anything for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I was letting my billing clients know, like, hey, heads up, especially the ones that have, heavier dependency or heavier patient base on those plans, like, it's going to be a problem. Now,
so it is our problem.
Well, and you know how it's going to become our problem? Do you think the insurance carriers are going to just take it on the nose and not want to do something about this loss?
So all of a sudden, the cuts start showing up in places that have nothing to do with weight loss.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 100%. And those cuts could be either not improving their fee schedules yearly. It could include clawbacks and enforcing their medical policies and taking a much closer look at people's documentation. It could be, and probably I would say, dare say will be, employer-based programs, a much more robust increase in premiums, which will then, of course, put more pressure on the small business and their employees who likely pay up to 50% of that premium.
They're only doing what you do when all of a sudden it's the end of the month and you don't have enough money to pay your bills. You start looking at the bills and saying, hey, what's important, what isn't important? And unfortunately, in the insurance world, we're not put in the important category.
Well, to me, the whole, don't even get me started, but get me started. The whole health insurance thing, I know, it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense because someone years ago put this in perspective really quickly for me. Like when an insurance company pays a claim, that's labeled a loss.
A loss.
Right?
Not doing their job.
No, that's a loss.
Right.
Any business tries to mitigate their loss.
That's like saying, because I have to adjust you, it's a loss. I failed. It makes no sense.
Right.
They're doing the job that they're created for.
The system is set up with opposing forces. I don't care if you say you're a not-for-profit company as a health insurance company, you're trying to make a profit. That profit may not be, that may be dispensed out to shareholders or put back in your business, whatever. But
CEOs.
Yeah. I think we should, I really do think we should do a podcast on that CEO tragedy. It's going to be a tender subject, but I have a lot to say. I'll just refrain myself. This isn't what today's topic is, but okay. So look out, chiropractors, physical therapists, every specialty under the sun, because in my opinion, the carriers are coming to mitigate their losses. Because if you look at some more of the statistics, employer-based health insurance in 2023 took a $900 million hit on GLP-1 coverage. $900 million. Medicaid from 2019 to 2023 saw a 500% increase in spending for GLP-1s. 500%. Wouldn't you like to get a 500% raise?
And what happens is they start putting this stuff out. Nobody does the proper due diligence and saying, okay, here's a drug that we could use to help people who are obese. But it's not a drug that we will pay for just because somebody wants to lose a few winter pounds.
Yeah, exactly. But with every dark cloud, Dr. Davini, there are some silver linings.
Okay.
I am a silver lining. He's looking at me like, what are you talking? We never talked about this in the pre-production. So listen, I asked this question to a couple of functional medicine doctors, and they thought it was interesting. I said, with the rise in GLP-1s, when they're coming into your office for care, have you thought about doing some functional medicine interventions to help counter any side effects and or create a more robust physiology for the potential side effects? The answer they had was no, but they said that sounds like a really good idea. So if you're in functional medicine, you could take this opportunity to look, and I'm not in functional medicine. I know a little bit about supplements, but I don't really know much about functional medicine. But I know that someone who has that expertise could look at this and say, well, what can I do for a protocol that will help reinforce and help resist any side effects or physiological issues with those patients that are on GLP-1s, right?
Exactly. And instead of me taking this drug and wasting away to the point where it looks like I'm ill, I can maybe lose the weight in a more healthy manner.
Or at least try to mitigate if you're not willing to come off the shot. And then those that aren't in functional medicine, but you are a rehab specialist, this is a perfect opportunity to use the supportive procedure that I love from a reimbursement standpoint, as well as from just an overall health standpoint, which is
exercise.
You know
therapeutic Exercise. So, ultimately, in closing, in a sense, we can say we just circle back to the same old things we've always said in healthcare, right? Lifestyle. Eat right, get plenty of rest, do your exercise, and then get your adjustments.
That's it. Because let's take the opportunity, docs, to capitalize on what the system is doing out there, both to these patients and to the bottom line, right? Let's look at it because to me, it's all in the same direction. You can create more opportunities for yourself, both from a financial aspect, but also from that patient care aspect to help with the ever-growing number of patients that are on this drug, to help them at least help stave off or create a more robust physiology so that they can help themselves.
Without the drug, hopefully, at some point. So
I have this quote from Albert Einstein, unless you want to say it.
No, go ahead. I love it.
You can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. And I dare say that chiropractors in themselves don't think in the same vein as most of the system out there. So it's an easy one, right?
That's right. The problem to the solution to a problem is not another drug.
Tell that to the prescribers, because right. Well, now I'm taking this drug that's losing weight, but now my tummy hurts. Well, here's a drug to help with your digestion, and here's a drug
for the symptoms that come from that, and blah blah.
Did you look up what today's average is of prescriptions? Like who?
I think it's 7
yes,
per person.
It's like 7.
Yeah.
And of the 7, typically the majority of them are because of side effects from the original prescription.
You really can't make this stuff up. So,
hey, come at it naturally. That's what chiropractors do.
Ouch. Right? That takes work.
Well, I know. Do you think I should take the GLP-1? I have a few.
No, I think
pounds to lose. I don't know.
You're very far away from GLP-1. So
let me ask my doctor.
Right. With that in mind.
Yes. Thank you again for listening to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
Dr. Mark Davini. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.